Minato is arguably one of the strongest characters in Naruto, and he has one of the most impressive records in the whole series. He is a benchmark in the series for various characters, and his presence is felt throughout the whole thing. And given that he just got his own one-shot released fairly recently, I feel like it's a good time for us to go over all of the top 5 accomplishments that make him the character that we know and love. And you're going to want to stick around to the end of this one because his last achievement is one that almost nobody else talks about. So let's get right into it. Number 5. He created the Rasengan. Now, it probably feels weird to many of you to put the Rasengan at the back of this list, given that it is such an important element of Naruto, both for Minato and Naruto himself. But it's actually kind of funny that, much in the same way as another jutsu we're going to talk about here on the list, the reason that this is at the back is simply that he created it, but he didn't perfect it. Its development for the Rasengan began when Minato actually saw 2 Biju bombs during the Second Great Ninja War. He was on an currently undisclosed mission with Jiraiya and 2 other squad mates, and they actually got to see not 1, but 2 different bombs being made by 2 different Jinchuriki. Needing to get them out of there quick, Minato ended up using the flying Raijin and teleported them away. But having witnessed such destructive power, he decided that he wanted to be able to create something at least similar, if not on the same level, although in his mind he wanted it to be able to match or even overpower other Biju bombs. So he started to develop what we would later call the Rasengan. Now, he did have some trouble with this in the beginning, but true to his nature, he got really good at it really fast, to the point he was able to use it in conjunction with helping Kushinda to re-suppress Kurama. Now, this ability in and of itself is incredibly powerful. It basically condenses all of your chosen chakra that you choose to allocate to it into a ball, and then you slam this ball into a target. That sounds exceedingly simple, but it's exceedingly offensive. We've actually seen it blow out the backside of a water tower before, and that was a light one. Naruto's later Rasengans are way more powerful. So the reason that this ended up at number 5 is because he didn't perfect it. Naruto is actually the one that gets the credit for completing the Rasengan, and therefore, while Minato did create it, he didn't actually get it up to the point he even wanted to, let alone where he thought it could potentially go. That's not to say it wasn't a good jutsu for him, we certainly know that it was, it's just that another character got make better use of it. And then, coming in at number 4, he received the run-on-sight order. It's kind of interesting that this is apparently a very important designation in the world of Naruto, but it so rarely comes up, and it actually was only first mentioned in regards to Minato. But this is essentially when a village's military decides to assign so much preference to one ninja that they are so powerful that you shouldn't even fight them and just run away. Now, technically, the only time we have seen this is with Minato, and only from the Hidden Stone. A lot of people think he actually got this in the Third War from both the Hidden Stone and the Hidden Cloud, but it was actually only from the Stone. That's not to say necessarily that Cloud Ninja also didn't follow this, but only the Stone is the one that assigned it to him. Now, we don't know of anyone else who was actually assigned to this, though there are some hints that it's possible that Kakashi's dad, the White Fang, might have also gotten it as well, at least in the Land of the Sand. But that's still a small list. It's never been addressed that people like the legendary Sanin or Hanzo or anyone else in any of the wars, even Hashirama or Tobirama, received this designation. And that's kind of an important aspect. I mean, he was essentially so terrifying he could stop whole battles on his own. That's an impressive feat. But what makes it even more impressive is the thing that gave him this designation, and that belongs to our number 3 spot. Number 3, he mastered the Flying Raijin. Remember how I said we were going to bring up a jutsu that he mastered but somebody else invented? It's the Flying Raijin. And I mean, it's an old jutsu. Technically, this belonged to the generation of ninja before. It's weird. There's at least one hidden generation that we don't know anything about, so at least 2 generations back. But what this really means is that it was invented by Tobirama, who basically invented near limitless teleportation, and then pretty much sat abandoned. We know of only one other group who actually even attempted to learn how to use this jutsu, and that is the Hokage's Guard. 3 Anbu ninja who are basically instructed in how to do this, but they can only do it by linking their hands together with the Hokage, or a chosen target in between them in the center of their formation, and then they will teleport. Minato, all he had to do was put his seal on an object and then toss it, and he could teleport to it. This could be done so quickly that it spanned, we think seconds, but it could have actually been faster than seconds, like near instantaneous teleportation, meaning that he could essentially be in multiple places almost all at once across a battlefield. Hence why he got the run on sight order, because he could literally wipe out an entire platoon in the span of less than a minute. That's incredibly powerful, and given that this is a no hand signs jutsu, it's even more impressive, as most ninja have to use those in order to direct their chakra and achieve desired results. And coming in at number 2, another showcase of how strong he was, is he became the Hokage. Now, it's important to understand that I put this one at number 2 because all of his other achievements really led up to it, but we know very little about Minato's Hokage-ship. The least we know about almost any of them, actually. And because of that, he kind of sits somewhere near the bottom of actual Hokages, because he didn't form the village, he didn't form anything important to the village, he didn't end up being like one of the most famous, like the professor, or he was a famed war hero, but not like the way Kakashi or Naruto were. So he sits in a very odd spot, and the fact he died so young, only making it to 24, cutting his Hokage-ship down to just 3 to 4 years, means he didn't really get to show off what he could do in this. We had no idea what his policies would necessarily be and what he would have shaped the village into had he gotten to be it for the what's supposed to be the standard 15 to 20 year run in that office. Because of this, it's pretty easy to say that this would probably be somewhere near the bottom of the list, except I just didn't feel that it was proper to put it near the bottom considering all of the other achievements led up to it. But the last achievement I have no doubts on, because it is actually something that very few people ever give credit to him for, but it is absolutely something signature to him. And that is, at number 1, he created 2 Jinchuriki. Now, I think this is kind of important to point out, because most villages have 2 Jinchuriki because they have 2-tailed beasts. They had, during when Hashirama was selling off the tailed beasts, and all of them got reallocated basically to be deterrents for further warfare, which didn't end up working out, but it was the idea of it. Most of the villages ended up with 2-tailed beasts, except for the village hidden in the sand and the village hidden in the leaves. This is because the sand captured Shikaku on their own and they didn't want to negotiate, and the village hidden in the leaves had Kurama, arguably the strongest. But what's interesting is that on the night that Naruto was born and Toby decided to create his ultimate attack and try and perfect his plan, which still makes no sense considering Kurama could not have been put in the Geto statue, but that's a separate conversation. Basically, in the process of defending the village and then trying to take out Kurama, which he did defeat Kurama, almost on his own, with Kushina helping by using restraints, he basically used the Reaper Death Seal, another extremely difficult to use jutsu, to break Kurama in half. And he sealed half of Kurama inside of Naruto, and he sealed the other half inside himself. This is highly impressive. We do know that the Reaper Death Seal can be used to kind of divide people in half, at least in their soul form. It's kind of what Hiruzen did to Orochimaru during the attack on the village, but to actually break one being in half, especially considering it was the yin and yang of Kurama, and then split it into 2 people, is just amazing. What's even more amazing is these were 2 full Jinchuriki, as we would later see when Minato would be unleashed and Naruto would fully integrate with Kurama. I mean, they are essentially the same as what Killer Bee would be with Gyoki or any of the other Jinchuriki could do when they were in full sync with their tailed beasts. And what's even worse is Kurama's so strong, for the most part, and for the longest run in the series, considering we didn't know he was actually broken in half, he was still considered the strongest one out of all of them, which is just terrifying, frankly. So to say that that was split in half, and it's also important to note that when Minato did this whole thing, he used the Reaper Death Seal, and depending on how you look at the scene, he might not have died of it. It's largely speculated that having enough life force or restraint with the ability of the jutsu, it's not entirely explained, might actually allow a user to live. If this were true, that means the village really would have had 2 Jinchuriki, and that would have been terrifying. The only other time we've ever gotten anything close to this is with pseudo Jinchuriki in the form of Kinkaku and Ginkaku, but that doesn't really count because they were inside Kurama and then they ate some of Kurama and they only got a partial bit of his power split between them. This was full on Kurama's power just broken in half, essentially creating two Jinchuriki. I don't think Minato gets enough credit for that. But why don't you go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think his greatest power was.